Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we're talking about 1998's Halloween H20, 20 years later, which was directed by Steve Miner. I'm your co-host, Alec.
I'm Eric, and with us again, Joe Testa. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much. Happy Halloween.
Right?
Yeah, well, Joe, you were just on for Halloween 6 in October, so you've been on recently for an actual Halloween movie near actual Halloween. So there's that.
Yeah, and because I was on that episode and that movie is so near and dear to my heart, and my memories of seeing it in theaters were so vivid, I felt it would only be right if I came back for this episode because this was just a few years later.
Yes, and we're very excited to do that. And something happened, which has never happened in our, years of doing this. Eric and I actually recorded this episode back in August 2023, and I never edited it for some reason, never released it, which I don't know how or why that happened. And yeah, so basically, I'm gonna put that at the end of this episode, so we'll have those thoughts in case we missed anything on this episode and vice versa or whatever. But it's just really weird, Eric. It was like the end of it, it was just like spin the wheel, and then it was the Addams Family, and we've never done that movie either. So I have like no idea what happened.
August 2023 must have been a weird time. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, like I think Joe was getting at it's February right now, pretty much, and we're doing a Halloween episode. So let's just keep the dream alive.
Yeah, why not? So just bear with us in case we do repeat ourselves a little bit. There might be certain things, but it's okay. Whatever. We're here to talk Halloween 7. And Joe, you were how old when this came out? Like 17?
Actually, I was 15, and something I remember about this movie is it came out in August, early August.
Mm.
And I'm not looking this up, but I could remember, I'm almost positive it was August 5th. That date is like,
That is correct,
it is
sir.
okay. That date is burned into my brain because, like Halloween 6, if I made a short list of movies that I just couldn't wait for, in my like teenage years, this would be towards the top of that list. So yeah, it was right before I turned 16, I believe.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I can totally imagine like Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. It's just like, of course, I have to see this. And it's the 20th anniversary. It's like, yeah, that must have been so exciting, dude. But I want to hear all about it. Like, I just, delve right into the theater experience.
Well, much like Halloween 6, I remember a very lively Friday night crowd. I will say I was following this production very closely. I think one thing that was different between going into Halloween 6 and this one is the internet was a much bigger thing by this point.
Mm.
So I was really following this production closely, and I remember the early title for it was Halloween: The Revenge of Laurie Strode.
Mm.
And it went through, I think, a few different versions. And eventually I realized that, something that I don't think I was really prepared for, even though I knew going into it, I don't think I was prepared for the fact that this movie was going to disregard Halloween 4, 5, and 6.
Right.
And I was a huge fan of those movies, and I did know it was going to do that going in, but I don't think I was quite prepared for that. That's something that happens all the time now. I mean, it happens again later in the series. They kind of
Yeah.
wipe the slate clean, but I feel like back then it was kind of unusual.
Yeah.
And I'll just say, I people could go back and listen to our Halloween 6 episode, and I am unapologetically a big fan of that movie, even though it is really something. This movie I have kind of a complicated relationship with.
Oh, wow. Okay, I feel like this is like almost like universally loved. Well, before I guess we get into that, Eric, what's your history with this bad boy?
It's funny that we're talking about this in February because in eighth grade in February, when I was a kiddo, I watched this for the first time. And I probably watched it in the background of, that was Alec when I was obsessed with horror. Like, I'm still am, but like that's when it was starting. And I saw this movie probably 50 times. And I really liked this one. Probably didn't even need to watch it again. I knew it so well. But It is a short film too. I'm gonna go through the stats real quick. It debuted August 5th, Joe, 1998. Runtime an hour 25. It's short, it's sweet. A lot happens in this movie. It feels like it's longer than an hour 20, 26, an hour 26. Its budget was 17 million. So put some money behind it. It made 75 million, four times the budget minus marketing costs. Rotten Critic score 56%, Rotten Audience 48. I mean, I'd give it a 79, honestly. I really like this movie. And I know that's not a great score, but it's coming off of the curse of Michael Myers is so important. One, Donald Pleasance, this is the first one where after his passing. That's very important to note. And it's before the masterpiece of Halloween Resurrection. So this movie is like in between a lot, and it's a direct sequel to two, which we don't have again. This ends the trilogy slash Halloween Resurrection, and then it restarts again with the 2018 Halloween. So there's a lot of like, no, that one didn't count, this counted, that no. So if you're a fan of Halloween, you understand where this movie takes from, where it ends up. And I guess that's why I like Halloween too, is because it can always restart in such a good way.
Yeah, it's like Terminator. I feel like Terminator and Halloween are the only two series that they just keep trying to restart it, and it's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, the Halloween is very confusing. If somebody's never seen a Halloween film and you just show them like all of them, and like, okay, so you skip this one to enjoy this one. This is technically a trilogy. This one is you ignore this one.
She's not her brother, she is his brother. It's like,
Yeah,
wait, like it's all of it. Like it's all like, wait.
yeah.
So didn't he attack the hospital? It's like, no, that character's actually still alive. It's like, well, didn't this character die? Like, I love it.
We got the slow drip, but yeah, if like a newcomer comes in now, they're gonna be like, I'm so confused. But Joe, why complicated history? What happened?
Well, I think going into this movie, as I confessed in our other Halloween episode, I had seen Halloween 5 in theaters. I was,
Yeah.
a long time fan at this point.
Waiting for context, Eric, Joe was what, 7?
Yes.
Eric, imagine that. He saw Halloween 5 in theaters at 7.
The revenge one.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's insane. You're too young, man.
And then, of course, like me and my friends we went into Halloween 6, very excited and still at an age to be kind of naive. If we had we been a little bit older, maybe we would have been harder on Halloween 6. But, that was still such a fun experience. And we were so tied to that. We were so loyal to that continuity, you
Yeah.
know? So going into Halloween 7, I think the movie does a lot of things really well. I think it's very accessible. I like looking back now, I don't blame the filmmakers behind this one for saying, look, they really jumped the shark with that last movie.
Right.
Why don't we just, wipe the slate clean? I really don't blame them. And it probably was the right thing to do. But I think the main issue here for me now and for me sitting in the theater in 1998 is that you can't help but feel the influence of Scream
Yeah, big time.
on this movie. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge Scream fan, but tonally, this movie I have a lot of issues with, and there's a few different reasons for that. And I know quite a bit about the production of this movie. I dove back into the book I mentioned in the last in the last episode, and it escapes my mind right now. But there's this great behind the scenes book that had a lot of interesting stories about the making of this movie.
Hmm. Well, Joe, I guess the only thing I'm kind of confused about is like in the continuity that we're talking about up until 6, they say Laurie died in a car crash. And then this one you knew she was coming back. So like how did that like what did you think was gonna happen? Like they faked her death?
So it's interesting. The movie, in some ways, acknowledges the previous movies, and
Right.
in some ways, it doesn't. And I think that's because while making it, they weren't quite sure which direction they were going to go in. Like at one point during this production, they were going to acknowledge the events of 4, 5, and 6, and a student in Laurie's class was going to read a report about the Haddonfield murders, and Jamie, her daughter, was going to get mentioned. And then at some point during the production, that was scrapped. But they could have just scrapped the whole idea of her faking her death.
Well, if you look in that montage at the start, the title card and everything, there is news clippings that she faked her death in a car crash.
Yeah.
Right. So what I'm saying is they didn't really need to do that. The only reason they felt they needed to do that is because in part 4, they say she died.
Yeah. In a car crash, though, which is even weirder.
Yeah, so they could have just scrapped that when they decided they weren't going to acknowledge 4, 5, and 6.
Wait, but really quick, Joe, I figured it out. I figured it out. Okay. This could technically be a continuation of part 6, because what if Laurie and her husband or whatever, they had twins, okay? Daniel Harris and Josh Harnett are twins. And they do a parent trap thing where Jamie is raised by the father, but then the father's a scumbag and takes off, okay? And then they fake the death so that Michael's thrown off the trail, right? Like, couldn't that kind of work?
I mean, yes, and like, teenage me would have been very happy.
Because here's the thing, we don't like we know Lori as like a surviving babysitter. We don't know if
Mhm.
she's a piece of shit. She could be a
Yeah.
piece of shit for all we really
Mhm.
know. So maybe she did do that.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't take too much kind of rewriting to put this into continuity. But again, I understand why they did it because, like, let's not forget, horror pre-Scream, when I was seeing Halloween 6, and me and my friends were, you know, watching all those other, 90s horror movies, most people weren't, most people my age weren't.
Hmm.
And, after Scream, all of that changed. So I think it was important to make a more accessible Halloween movie. And you talked about this being one of the, more praised movies. I think for a lot of people my age, this probably was one of their first horror movies. Like they probably didn't even see Scream in theaters. I was only like 13 when that came out. A lot of people obviously weren't seeing these movies as young as I was.
Yeah.
So, this movie, and make no mistake, this is a much better made movie than Halloween 6. Like, I'm not a complete fool, but this movie probably holds a special place in, a lot of people's hearts that are around my age because yeah, this along with, I Know What You Did Last Summer, this was probably their introduction to horror. And it wasn't for me and my friends. So, it was just kind of a tough pill to swallow, kind of seeing the continuity rewritten. And we didn't hate this movie, don't get me wrong. And I still, enjoy a lot about this movie. But I think the big thing was, and the thing that I could never kind of get past, is they actually replaced a lot of the original score for this movie
Mm,
with music from Scream.
yeah.
And it's so blatant for me, at least, maybe because I'm a big fan of the Scream movies, but I remember noticing it instantly sitting in theaters and feeling like it feels like an incomplete movie. Like, when movies are in post, they score the movie with music from other movies because they don't have the completed score yet. So that's kind of how this feels to me. And then you mix that with the Kevin Williamson dialogue. He contributed to the script. He's a producer. So there is so much Scream influence here that, I this just is never one of those Halloween movies I reach for when the leaves start to change. It's just not one of those movies that captures the Halloween spirit for me.
Well, you're a purist, Joe, and honestly, you explaining that kind of makes it make sense because, like, I do remember being bummed that we don't really know what happens at the end of 6. We don't know what happens to Tommy Jarvis and that baby and all that shit, and like that sucks that that just ended that way.
Tommy Doyle. We don't know what happened to Tommy Jarvis either.
Tommy Jarvis, right? Tommy Doyle, right, right.
I agree with everything Joe just said. They kind of took the Thorn trilogy and was like, nope, got to move forward. And also, this is coming off of Scream, Joe. Like you kind of said, like this is hot off the press. Like we need to hit the horror. We have a diamond in the rough. Like people love Michael Myers, so let's do it that way.
And I think too, what was kind of strange, I'll say this, when we did our Halloween 6 episode, I talked about how, I was a kid and it was one of the first times I realized that, oh, movies aren't birthed into existence. They're the result of, infighting and money issues and creative differences behind the scenes. Not, that's not something I gave a whole lot of consideration to as a kid, but I read the articles in Fangoria after the movie came out, and they, spilled a lot of tea.
Yeah.
And this movie, watching it, was maybe when I started to become a little cynical about Hollywood. Like, oh, because that other thing was successful, now this wants to be like that, even though Halloween, was so influential to Scream. Now Halloween wants to be like Scream.
Yeah.
It was strange. It was a strange experience looking back.
It's weird though. I wonder if you would have felt that way in 1988 if you were a little bit older, watching Halloween, kind of sort of emulating Friday the 13th in a way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing. Like, so much of our memories of these movies is affected by like when we saw them in our lives.
Right.
When I rewatch Halloween 6, I totally get, people's issues with it. But, I can't help but remember where I was in my life when I saw that movie and the fun theatrical experience we had. So, yeah, absolutely. I think had I seen any of these movies at different points in my life, I would have taken something different away from them.
Two quick questions for you, Joe. Were you watching Third Rock from the Sun, and were you listening to LL Cool J?
No, but I was listening to Creed, who has a song in this, and no, you're referencing Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the beginning of
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if I would have known who that was.
Okay, I felt like he would have been like, "Oh, he's a teen heartthrob. We gotta throw him right in the beginning of the movie and get all the girls excited about him." But nah, I guess not. Yeah, Eric, I know you're a huge LL Cool J fan. I mean, were you excited that he survived?
I mean, yeah, I was. I didn't want him to go, and like he could come back if they wanted to do this again. I'm surprised he wasn't in Resurrection. Honestly.
That's the other thing. Yes, exactly, Eric. This movie drops the ball even with its own sequel. Like, they could have had Josh Hartnett in that. LL Cool J survives, which is insane that he survives this movie, and they're still just like, nah, he's not in the sequel. It's just, I don't know. It kind of sucks that some of these characters didn't carry on to its direct sequel.
I do think there was an attempt going back to the book I read is called Taking Shape, by the way, and it's amazing. I do think there was an attempt to get LL back for the next movie, but was replaced by Busta Rhymes, as we all know.
Right, right, right. Oh, really quick, Joe, I wanted to mention too. Did you know about the music? Because you were saying they took some from Scream. Do you know that the guy, I think his name is John Ottman, he redid the entire score in 5 days? Did you know that?
No, but it's funny. The soundtrack was released, his original soundtrack, from which only a little bit is in this movie, was released on CD when I was a kid, and I still have it.
Mm.
And to tell you the truth, it's pretty good. Like it would be nice if they used it because at least this movie would have, an original score and kind of its own identity, but it's still like nothing like that the synthy John Carpenter music that continued even after John Carpenter left.
Yeah.
So I think the music would have been an issue for me in this movie no matter what. But yeah, this movie wasn't as plagued with problems as part six, although few movies probably were. But there were a few issues. One of them were the music, and the other one was the mask.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny, I remember seeing the teaser trailer for this movie. It probably took like 2 hours to download back in the day. And all it was the moment where Jamie Lee and Michael come face to face behind that window. And it's not the moment we see in the movie. It's Michael with a completely different mask. And I don't know if the reaction to that teaser was what forced them to go back and reshoot a lot of the movie with a different mask, but you can still see several different masks in the movie.
Yeah, the masks are horrible in this, and they do a CGI mask that look like shit. Yeah, I heard the Weinsteins are the reason. 3 weeks into filming, they said they wanted to change the mask, so they had to do reshoots and just, yeah, it cost that. I'm sure the Weinsteins made this more difficult than it needed to be, but definitely not as bad as six.
Yeah.
My least favorite part about this was the mask, hands down.
They're so bad. I mean, this series is pretty notoriously bad for having certain movies have bad masks, but
Mhm.
this one's definitely up there. But Eric, I wanted to ask you too, because I know you love the new trilogy. You love the first one, the Halloween 2018 one.
Yes, yes.
what do you think this Laurie compared to that Laurie? If you had one, pick one, gun to your head, which one do you go with?
The latest one.
2018 one?
Yeah, I loved her in that. Just because she's so PTSD, even more than this one. Like this is even longer, and she's even more PTSD'd.
Dude, she's like Yoda in the new one. She's just like
Yeah,
living in the woods. Like, but yeah, in the new one, yeah, she's like a teacher. She's like the probably the what is she, the headmaster?
I think she's the headmaster of the school. Yeah.
She's doing pretty fucking well in this one compared to the newest remake. But how about you, Joe? Which one do you prefer?
It's I'm actually a big fan of the new movies, the whole trilogy, honestly, to varying degrees.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was, like I said, I have kind of a complicated relationship with this movie. So maybe I never quite had the return of Laurie Strode that I was, really satisfied with. So the newer movies kind of gave me something I liked a little more. But I think it's just kind of interesting to see her in two very different parts of her life, in this as the mom of a teenager and in the new one as like a grandmother, chugging wine in both versions.
Right. Right. Okay. I want to talk about that.
I think I lean towards the newer one too.
Yeah, I feel like she's just cooler. I don't know. It's like the Sarah Connor from Terminator 2 kind of attitude.
Mhm.
But okay, all right. Specifically, I want to talk about the alcohol because yes, she chugs like nips in the car in the new one, the 2018 one. She's drinking at dinner. She's just chugging wine, all that stuff. Like she's definitely an alcoholic. But in this one, she's a functioning alcoholic where she's like going to work and but the one thing I noticed in this one is she was only drinking when Alan or Adam Arkin or whatever was around. That was it. It wasn't like she was alone drinking like she was in the new one. It was when he went up to go to the bathroom and she chugged the wine. When she knew he was coming over for, to have sex or whatever later. She's chugging the vodka. Like it was only when he was around. So I was like, what is this something more going on?
I thought when I first saw this, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, when you were like, 6, when you saw this or whatever in theaters, I thought that they were trying to make it seem like he might be Michael.
Well, that's really interesting because this is the only Halloween movie where I think to myself, why don't the characters just assume this is a copycat?
Mm,
And it might be the influence of Scream. We have the Scream music here. It just feels like a Scream movie. And then, of course, in those movies, it is always a copycat besides the first movie. There is always like an unmasking. So maybe that's why that thought always occurs to me. There's also the fact that he has no burns on his hands.
oh yeah.
But he keeps startling her.
Right, right.
And he's always there at the perfect time, and he has the
Yeah.
right things to say, and he's like kind of the right age too.
Yeah, it does seem like there should be an unmasking in this movie, and Michael is Laurie's boyfriend. But, I mean, I think a lot of college term papers have been written about Michael as a embodiment of just kind of male rage, and the boyfriend may represent that in certain ways. It's not something I've really kind of given a lot of thought to, but I think you could dig into this and maybe there's something interesting there.
Well, I want to hear your guys' theories because the thing that kind of bothers me about this movie is between this. So this acknowledges one and two that he burned in the hospital, and that's the last time we saw him. And then now, for no reason, he is aware that Laurie's alive, and he goes to Loomis's house and then goes to California. What happened in those 20 years? What do you guys think happened?
Well, if we're going to if we skip ahead to Halloween Resurrection, I think he was just under the Myers house eating rats.
Oh. Okay, okay. I think you're right. But why now? Why'd he go after Lori now?
Oh, the answer is because he kills people on their 17th or 18th birthday.
Yeah, but how does he know that Josh Harnett is 17? How does he know he has a nephew until he goes and gets the file?
I don't know that. I think the file thing was more about where they are, but maybe he knew that before. I don't know.
It was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've always kind of bumped up against with this movie. And I think, why, I mean, I guess you could ask yourself, why did he wait 15 years in Smith's Grove before he escaped? You know?
That's a very good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of it's just weird. It is odd, but maybe you're right. Maybe he needs time to recharge after a hard attack or whatever. Obviously he got lit on fire, so it's a big deal. But I wanted to know what happened right after that. Where did they put him? Where did he go?
And, I mean, he is absolutely obliterated at the end of part two,
Yeah,
and the idea that he just kind of walked away from that and disappeared, it's odd. I always
yeah,
found that kind of odd. And then he shows up and has no burns on his hands or anything. And that's what I mean. It just feels like the people who made it didn't really know what they wanted to acknowledge from the previous movies or didn't really care. And you know
yeah.
what? I can't really blame them too much. Again, they want to strip all that away and just make a really simple, fun slasher movie for this new generation. And I get that.
I know. I don't. It just kind of bothers me that he somehow knows that Loomis is being taken care of by the nurse, by Nurse Marion. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna go to that house, and I know he'll have a file on Laurie Strode and where she is right this moment. And the other thing that I think is so funny is that is supposed to be Dr. Loomis's office, right?
Mhm.
In
Yeah.
that house. So he has a framed picture of himself in his office. You know what I mean? Like, isn't that weird? Like, Eric, what if you just had a framed picture of yourself in your desk right now, just you?
I don't. But yeah, that would be a red flag.
And it's so obviously like a publicity still someone took on the set of like Halloween, you
Right.
know?
It's so funny. It's like not him like on vacation or something. It's just like, very stern looking picture. It's black and white and
Yeah. I like to think Donald Pleasance would have been more careful with that file.
yeah, yeah.
And also, like, is it very common for people who had encounters with serial killers to like fake their own death and start a new identity like that?
Right?
I could see that, like, if you're a mob informant or something, but that's left over from when this movie was going to acknowledge those other movies. So these are things that they're the reason I say my relationship with this movie is complicated.
Okay, I have one more. I have one more that I'm just like, what's going on? So we think he steals Marion's car from Illinois. We think it's hers. We don't know whose car it is. I mean, maybe he took a car to get there. I don't know, but it's a car. If it's Marion's, then they probably should have been able to find it pretty quick. But then he gets to a rest stop. We don't know where it is, but it's probably pretty far away. His tire pops, okay? And then we get the whole scene where this little girl and her mom go in to use the bathroom, and he doesn't kill them for some reason, which is really dumb, and he steals their car, which is like a 1940s pickup truck, basically. And Eric, we talked about this on the last one we did, but it's like that car would get like 8 miles to the gallon. He would have to refill so many times. How many, he's gonna have to interact with so many people. And also, how does he know how to drive on the highway? It's hard to drive cross country. But for a guy that's been a serial killer and has the brain of like an 8-year-old, like I don't know. There's a lot of questions, Joe. I have questions. Eric, help me.
Now, that car would never make that drive. Never, ever, ever in 1,000 years. And I think they just wanted a recognizable car for when Michael showed up to like really be like, that's the Michael car. And it's like we could have figured it out, but I don't know. I think they didn't have faith in people.
Yeah, but like, how did he drive the whole fucking from Illinois to Northern California? How did he do that and fill up car and and he get food? Like, I want to know. I want to know.
In fairness, if they kept the continuity from part six, you could say the Thorn cult was giving him driving lessons.
Oh my God. See, there you go. And they could have been meeting him on the highway and feeding him and stuff and like helping him. Like, because that scene literally doesn't need to happen at all. Like, at all. Except for what you just said, Eric, where it's like, that's the Michael car. Like, that's it. He doesn't kill those people. We didn't need his car or tire to pop or whatever. And now he gets this old beat up fucking old car. Like, I don't know. It just felt like that was like padding the runtime and in a very short movie.
It's a pretty good scene, though. I think it's a pretty suspenseful scene.
It is. It is.
And it should be said that there was supposed to be this whole subplot with Charles S. Dutton, where he is a cop tracking Michael.
Oh.
And this was all cut at the last minute to just kind of make this movie as kind of lean as possible. And yeah, I think it is one of the shortest Halloween movies. But yeah, there was supposed to be more to this movie.
That's so annoying. Yeah, because I really hate that he just drives cross country. And Eric, we talked about that in the other one too. This one doesn't feel at all like it's Halloween. Like we know like we get that very little brief thing in town where there's trick-or-treaters, but otherwise, it doesn't really look like Halloween.
Well, like Joe mentioned, it's August when it was released, and California, Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's where we're at.
I know, but I don't know. I wish they did a little bit more to like decorate it up a bit. I mean, dude, honestly, I mean, Joe, you can attest to this. They do Halloween surprisingly well out here in LA, like the decorations.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, yeah, they try. Like, I mean, it's Northern California, it's not Southern California, so there are some leaves on the ground. I would say, a lot of the Halloween movies, they were shot in Southern California, or they weren't shot during the fall at all. So a lot of them, if you're really looking, don't exactly look like Halloween, but I think they feel like Halloween, at least for me. And
Yeah.
this one doesn't.
No, and actually, Joe, this was all filmed in LA. It was all
Oh,
filmed. Yeah, dude, and the school is in Silver Lake. I looked it all
wow.
up and I was like, "Oh my God, like that's in where in Silver Lake is a prep school like that?"
Hmm.
Like, so you've been to Silver Lake, right, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric, it's like a hipster neighborhood. Like it's small with like tight streets. It does not, I would never expect that school to be there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious why they did like they I mean the movie starts in Illinois at least,
Yeah.
and then it goes to California.
Everything was filmed in LA, dude. I looked it all up.
I mean, yeah, like Joe said, the original, yeah. So who knows
Yeah.
who made these decisions? Yeah.
I wonder why Northern California and not just in LA, but no, but it's got a couple plot holes. I definitely think the kills too, they were pretty tame for like a movie that came out after Scream. Can you think of any graphic kills in this movie aside from maybe the Alan Arkin character or Adam Arkin character getting like pulled up with a knife?
Not really. The Joseph Gordon-Levitt death is off screen, but we see his body and
Right.
he has an ice skate in his face, which is, that's kind of original.
Yeah, I don't know. I just this movie felt like didn't need to be R almost. I mean, there's a couple scenes, but like all of the kills are basically off screen. It's really interesting if you kind of like really pay attention to it. You see like Michael stabbing, but he's not actually hitting the bodies. It's almost like
Mhm.
Psycho.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of in keeping with a lot of the movies that came out post Scream. I feel like they kind of got less violent. Like if you look back at I Know What You Did Last Summer, which we talked about, I thought that was, that's pretty lacking. And each Scream movie too, by Scream 3, it was almost completely bloodless, but I think that had more to do with like Columbine controversy and a lot of things that were going on at the time. But yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think just a few years later, when we get to, the early 2000s, what horror movies look like.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, like 5 years from now, it's gonna be bordering on Saw. But
Hmm.
this movie too, like aside from not even just graphic kills, almost no swearing either, or drug use, or like anything that would make this movie R almost.
Hmm.
Pretty tame. But I mean, still, it's got a couple good scares, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's got some suspense. I think the idea was to go back to something in spirit closer to that original movie, which is famously almost bloodless. And I think like the scene where Michelle Williams and Josh Hartnett are trapped behind the gate and Michael is sticking his, butcher knife through and grabs the keys. I think that I remember these scenes working pretty well.
Yeah, that's definitely the most iconic shot in the entire film, like for sure. And then maybe him like lowering down like from the rafter with that one arm. You're just like, oh my God.
Which, I mean, yeah, that's a good moment. But the less I think about that, the better. Like, imagine him getting up there.
He's like a monkey. The fight scene too, I gotta give it to Halloween Ends for the Laurie Michael like final fight. Like this one, I don't know, where they're just rolling around in the cafeteria. I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, I think it has its moments, like I think the moment of her with the axe calling out to him is kind of like the best moment, and the Halloween theme kicks in. And then yeah, a lot of what happens after that I could kind of take relief.
I mean, yeah, that's my favorite part of the movie too, Joe, when the music changes and she's hunting the monster, and that's kind of like the moment in the classroom where they have that iconic scene where Michelle Williams is looking out the window and she sees Michael, he disappears, but they're talking about Frankenstein and confronting the monster. And I think that was like a foreshadowing of her confronting Michael finally.
Yeah. Yeah, I paid attention to that scene too, Eric, where it's just very much like the monster had killed everyone close to him. Like he had no choice. He had to face it. And I was just like, oh my God, this is actually like really spot on for what's about to happen. Yeah. But yeah, no, I just really liked the Halloween Ends fight, which is in the kitchen with the knives just going through their hands. And like, I don't know, it just felt more intense. But this
Yeah.
one, yeah, it was good. This one felt more 90s, honestly. Yeah, just
Mhm.
really. Yeah, but the LL Cool J thing, it's just like that shot is literally it is Michael when he walks around the hall and they take he takes a gun and shoots him. That's Michael Myers for 1 second, and then it's LL Cool J. And it's like he's bald, he's short, he's like stockier. It's crazy that they think they're gonna trick us like that.
And I think, I'm not positive, but that might have been him surviving, might have been a result of test screenings that, they really liked LL, so they let him live in the end. But I think he was supposed to die in that scene.
Absolutely. Like, baby, the bullet just grazed my head. It's like, dude, you were sitting in a pool of your own blood. It's so fucking crazy. But I don't know. I mean, where does this fall though, I guess, for you guys on your Halloween ranking?
That's a tough one. The Halloween series is funny. After the last movie came out, someone on social media said if you ever see anyone's like Halloween ranking, it looks like they were chosen at random. And I think my ranking would look similar. It would honestly, this one, yeah, it would be in the middle, maybe the lower part of the middle for me.
Top five for me. Oh yeah, I like it a lot. Good. I would say Halloween 1, Halloween 2018, Halloween 2, and then I would go, yeah, I'd go this one, Halloween 3, and then 4, 5. Yeah, that's my ranking, honestly. Curse is awful, Resurrection's awful. They're at the bottom of the list. And I'm really not a fan of Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends at all. So
Damn, you didn't even mention Rob Zombie.
no, no. I'm not a fan of his reimagining of Michael Myers. I feel like he had good intentions of doing those films, and they're good, but I did not enjoy them. I thought they were very raunchy and more trailer trashy and more nipples on the costume more than anything.
Oh, we'll cover those soon, baby. Don't you worry.
Yeah, we will. And I'll talk nice, but I'll talk about the good things. But yeah, no, like his movies don't do it for me for Halloween, but he
Yeah.
makes amazing films.
This movie is better than a lot of the movies in the series that I really like and, have a lot of fondness for, but it's probably at the bottom of the list for me for Halloween movies that I want to watch because I'm in the Halloween spirit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
If I'm in a nostalgic 90s, I just watched The Faculty kind of mood, then maybe I'll watch this.
Oh yeah, you got to get your HeartNet weekend in.
Yeah, exactly.
But let me ask you guys this, though. Let me ask you this. With the exception of the original, I think this might have the best ending of any other Halloween movie. I mean, it's fucking really cool when she cuts his head off and it like that sound comes in like the twing.
Yeah, Alec. And also like that's what everyone would say back then. Like, oh, why do you leave the body behind? Just cut his head off if he's on the ground. And that I think that's when people are like, oh, he dead. He's like dead now.
Yeah. Well, that's what you
Yeah,
think.
but yeah, Resurrection's explanation is out of control, and I give the writer credit for coming up with something. I mean, that was the theory. Like, if you get someone down, like even in Scream, like they always left the body and stuff. So it's just like, no, when he's down, cut his head off, finish the job, and she did. She does it, and it's like, oh, was he gonna come back as a headless corpse? Oh, that
Yeah.
could have been it. Headless Michael on a horse or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Now the ending is so sick.
So, Alec, I mentioned in our Halloween 6 episode that at the end of Halloween 6, when I saw it in theaters, the audience erupted in boos, even though I probably wanted to stand and give it a standing ovation. But with this movie, it was the exact opposite. I remember that moment where she cuts his head off and the crowd erupting in applause.
Yeah.
And, it was quite a moment. Like, again, I was left with kind of mixed feelings about the movie itself, but the movie went over like gangbusters in the theater.
I mean, it's a pretty cool ending to it, and then the credits just roll. But The fucking truck, though, rolling down that hill and Laurie just perfectly falling out and just being like, I'm totally fine. I don't even have a broken leg. She's fine. Like, that is insane when you watch it back.
It should be said this took a lot of negotiating behind the scenes to make this ending happen. Apparently, this is what Jamie Lee wanted. She wanted a definitive win. She wanted an ending for this movie. And she was getting pushback not from the Weinsteins, but from Mustafa Akkad. Like this, the Halloween series is his baby, and he didn't want it to end.
Right.
So they had to do a lot of negotiating. And the deal they arranged was she would come back for a cameo in the next movie, but there could be no hint at the end of Halloween H20 that Michael survived.
Yeah, I heard her stipulation was she needed to get paid more than she got paid for H2O, and she had to get killed off in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. So, there was a lot of negotiating to get this ending to happen.
That's so funny. She's like, I really don't want to fucking do these anymore. And it's so obvious in Resurrection, like how bad she does want to be there.
Hmm.
I don't know. I like this one. It is fun. As you guys said, it's accessible. It's got fun music. I mean, Josh Hartnett, we didn't even really talk about a lot of the actors, but
There was some good scenes, man, when she's like, "Hey, Ronnie, do you mind like just taking a walk and let me talk to my son after they just snuck off campus?" And she's just like, "What the what are you thinking?" And it felt like a mom talking to their son, and it was very good, and he did a good job in that scene a lot.
no, seriously,
Hmm.
their acting really was. You can see why Josh Hartnett went on to do a lot of stuff. I mean, he's a good actor, and obviously Jamie Lee Curtis is a very good actress. So this movie had something going for it that a lot of slashers didn't.
And it was a timepiece. Like this was like Joe, we talked about it. Like this movie was good for 1998.
Oh, yeah.
It was coming off of Scream and the resurgence of horror movies again, and then flipping it on its head of cutting the head off is like a great ending.
Hmm. Yeah. And despite any, hangups I have about this movie, this series was destined for, direct to video purgatory after Halloween 6. Like
Oh
that's
yeah,
what the Weinsteins were going to do with it. That's what they did with all of their horror franchises once they didn't make enough coin at the box office.
Hellraiser, no.
Hellraiser, Children of the Corn, The Crow, they all just tossed them off into direct to video hell. And that's what was going to happen with a Halloween 7. There was a script written, and it was all set to head to Blockbuster until Jamie Lee Curtis reached out and said, I want to be in the next one. So we have her to thank for keeping the series relevant.
No, she really did. Thank God, because it would be so hard to imagine a world where people looked at Halloween like they do the Hellraiser and Children of the Corn series today. Like that
Hmm.
would suck if it got to be like that big of a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is a good one. Check it out. If you like Halloween, I'm sure you've already seen it. And yeah, do you guys have any last minute thoughts on Halloween H2O or water or whatever you want to call it?
Joe, I got one for you. I saw Creed in September, so and they played What's This Life For, so that was cool.
I wish I could have been there with you, Eric.
What's this life for? That's the song in this movie, and I think that's the music video too. So it was good, man. It was good. You've been there, the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater. You saw Alice Cooper there, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah, it's a great venue, man. Fucking
Hmm.
love that venue.
Wait, what's the venue called, Eric?
It's the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater in Bridgeport.
What happened to us? Like it used to be like Toad's Place and like there used to be like cool names.
Well, it's weird because it has Hartford in it and it's in Bridgeport, and I hate that, but it's the Hartford Healthcare Amphitheater in Bridgeport. But that venue, man, is there's not a bad seat in the house, period.
Yeah.
Like it's cool, it's clean, and the shows they're bringing in are phenomenal. They got Toto there in like 2 weeks. Toto. I love Toto.
No, they are good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think who are they with? They're with like Loverboy or something. I don't know, but like I'm like I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go.
That'd be fun. Well, all right. Well, Joe, you got any last minute thoughts?
No, this is a fun one to revisit. I just actually saw it a couple of years ago on the big screen at the New Beverly here in LA.
Yeah.
And, I'm able to put all my nitpicks aside and enjoy this movie.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, and next we have we have to cover the masterpiece that is Halloween Resurrection, and I cannot wait for that one, guys. We gotta save that for October, Alec. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's more fun to talk about shitty horror movies sometimes. I don't know.
sometimes it is.
It's kind of fun to be like, this is fucking ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous. It's just fun. All right. Well, listen to the second half of this because we do delve more into the plot and there's some other stuff that we definitely did not cover in this section. So if you want to get a full picture of H2O,
Without Joe, Joe's not in that version.
Joe is not in that version. So it's just Eric and I. But we do actually talk about a lot of stuff we didn't talk about on this episode. So go ahead and listen to that. But Eric, you ready to spin the wheel?
It's part of my job. What am I doing? All right, ready?
Yep.
Spinning. No, I don't want it. I don't want it, but I want it. And I picked this one. Alligator.
Alligator. Oh my God.
Oh, you want to talk about a shitty movie? Get ready. Buckle up, buckaroo. We're going to have fun with this one, Alec.
Alligator. Yeah, I'm excited. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, Joe, thank you very much for joining us today for our Halloween H2O chat.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Well, everybody, yeah, go ahead and listen to the second half of this podcast, and we will see you next week with Alligator.
Woo!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel every day leading up to Halloween. It chooses the horror film and they discuss it. Today we are talking about 1998's Halloween H2O, 20 years later, which was directed by Steve Miner. I'm your co-host Alec.
I'm Eric.
Woo-hoo-hoo, it's Halloween season and, this one's not that Halloween-y of a Halloween. I realized that while I was watching it.
What do you mean? Like the leaves weren't that changed for you? Is that what it is?
Well, all the other Halloweens kind of take place in suburbs. We see a lot of trick-or-treaters. This one was pretty much all in the school, and the only time we ever saw any trick-or-treaters was like when they went out to like drink at the cafe or whatever. So it didn't really feel like a Halloween-y movie.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give it credit for, first of all, just being a direct sequel to the second Halloween.
Yes.
And still like hitting it home like that's my brother and like Josh Hartnett's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to make a sequel after Halloween 2. John Carpenter's even said it best. I think I saw a commentary where he said something along the lines of, I was writing Halloween 3. Obviously, everyone wanted Michael Myers back,
Mm-hmm.
all the executives. And he said he had a 6-pack of beer. And he's like, I couldn't think of anything. So that's why Season of the Witch happened. But you got to give credit where credit's due. 20 years later, to just bring Michael back with like a hint of that makes sense. But there's a little cop out at the beginning with the guy who's like, never found his body. It's like, that's what we're going to say. Never found his body.
Before we even get into the movie, I'm not shitting on this movie. I was just like, right up at the front, I was just like, this didn't feel Halloween-y to me. You know, like, I want to get into like the plot and like, you know, kind of picking it apart because there's a lot to pick apart. But you know what I mean? Where like, dude, like Halloween 4, like The Revenge of Michael Myers, that starts off with all these like epic shots of just like
cornfields and like scared.
Yeah,
totally.
So like this one, I appreciate it for what it is, but it definitely did not have. You know, dude, right now we're looking outside. There's, you know, the leaves have changed. Like, there's decorations everywhere. Like, we're in prime time Halloween right now.
We're in the thick of Halloween time.
And, you know, and I look around in this movie and I'm like, this movie's called Halloween. If it wasn't called Halloween, I wouldn't know it was Halloween. You know?
Well, it's technically called water, H2O. So it's like...
True. They're confusing us. But anyways, so sorry. My major, just first thing I noticed right when I was watching this movie is like, this could have taken place anytime. And it did come out in August. But anyways, so yes, into this movie a little bit. I like it too. I know you like it, but I remember you really liking this when we were young. Like, you praise this movie. You're like, all the other sequels are shit. This is the best one. And I agreed until this new trilogy.
Right. First of all, I was obsessed with Halloween. I saw this when I was in middle school at some time.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this like back to back to back to back. I thought it was really good back in the day. And I still do. There's a special place in my heart for it. Also, I had Creed in the soundtrack, so can't really go wrong with Creed in the soundtrack. God. Watch that if you ever want to watch that music video.
I think it's called "What's This Life For" is the song. It's like what's this life for? Like what does that mean to Halloween?
What's this life for?
What's this life for? It's like there's no correlation to Halloween
Yeah.
or anything. But back to your point about the school, not to shit on this, it does not feel Halloween. I think what they tried to do is capture the 90s. This came out what year?
98. It's 20 years. Yeah.
I mean, we're right in the thick of Scream. I know what you did last summer. It's probably saying, imagine high school movies and Halloween. They're like, how can we lose money? You know, so
yeah.
It was a good idea on paper to be like, let's bring Halloween into these types of horror movies that are coming out. That's what I think it did. Real quick, budget 17 million, probably 16 million of it went to Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm kidding. So 17 million. Box office made 75 million. That's a pretty penny.
Yeah,
real pretty penny. I hope that would be considered a success for a 20 years after Halloween movie, but I don't know.
It absolutely was, considering the 6th one was like they'd written themselves into a corner. It was the least financially, rewarding one since any of them. It just they kept losing profit. But dude, I actually kind of went crazy with this episode. So I watched the Scream Factory 2015 documentary on this, on the making of and everything like that. I learned so much about this movie.
Just recently?
Last night.
Holy shit.
Yeah, because I was like, fuck it, like, I want to know more about this. So, dude, they have interviews from 2015 with everybody. Just really quick, I want to say off the top, they are all constantly talking about the Weinsteins, because it's right before Me Too. And they're like, oh, Bob was doing this, and then Harvey did this. And I'm just like, oh, these people, they have no idea what's about. But anyways.
Oh, no, they know. Everyone in Hollywood do.
Yeah, but I don't think they would be talking so highly of them if they knew what was just about to happen. But anyways, so the way that this was going to go is they had a screenwriter who's actually going to do a sequel to part 6. He was like, all right, we don't really know what we're going to do, but it was originally going to take place at a boarding school like this. But here's why everything changed. Jamie Lee Curtis actually met with one of the Weinsteins, and they talked about her coming back for the 20th anniversary, and then they completely scrapped everything. Originally, the horny best friend or whatever was going to be a copycat killer, just like in Halloween Ends. And then when Jamie Lee Curtis signed on, they're like, okay, we scrapped all that, and now Jamie Lee Curtis is back, and she's going to it's about revenge and killing him and all that stuff. So she was kind of the person that was like, okay, I want to do this, I want to change this, and she was so supportive on set to everybody. She was like Josh Hartnett's like acting teacher. She was like really hands-on with everything. So I even remember when at the end, the guy that played Michael Myers, he was like, yeah, there's a scene where I had to get thrown through the window, and we need to make sure that ground is completely clear of all gravel, all everything. So we're out there picking it up, and Jamie walks out. She's like, what are you guys doing? So we'll make sure the ground's safe. And she came over, she helped all of us. And I was like, wow, like, yeah, she was on set for every scene all day, no matter what. Same with LL Cool J. Apparently, he was there all day, every day, because he's like, I want to be an actor. I want to learn how this works. And he was there all day, every day, even in scenes he wasn't part of.
I mean, it's a cool movie to be a part of, and it must be kind of nice for Jamie Lee Curtis to come back to that franchise. This is the first time she's been back. She's been back multiple times since. Another complete revamp was the 2018 Halloween Resurrection she was in as well, which is the fucking craziest way to go from this movie to another movie.
Yeah.
Wild explanation, but we're going to save that for another podcast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Jamie Curtis, she seems like a decent Hollywood person, celebrity. I've heard nothing but good things about her. The only bad thing she gets is the nepotism thing, but I think she's outgrown that like easily.
Speaking of the nepotism thing, her mom's in this movie, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
And they have the little psycho music that plays as she walks into her car, but this was her last screen performance. So that was Janet Leigh.
So, I mean, like I was just saying, that must be very nice for Jamie Lee Curtis to just be a part. So she was probably just in a good mood on set, like just soaking it in and like, oh yeah, let's hang out. Oh yeah, back in the day with Donald and,
Seriously, like it seemed like she was kind of trying to recreate that like, small budget feel on a big budget, like kind of thing where it's like we're all a family, we're all trying to do this together. So it was really cool to hear, man. You should check it out. It's on YouTube. It's a Shout Factory interviews or whatever.
Yeah, how long is it?
It's like an hour.
Okay, maybe I'll give it a chance.
Okay, actually, there's one other thing I really want to tell you. I think it's going to blow your mind. So, the director, Steve Miner, he directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and Part 3, but he was also directing another movie right at this time. Do you know what it was? We've covered it.
I'm gonna guess Deep Blue Sea.
No, close.
Okay.
Lake Placid.
Oh shit.
So he was originally supposed to film Lake Placid, but the weather was like horrible. They're like, we're having a really bad rainy season. So they're like, go direct this Halloween movie and then come back and do Lake Placid. So he has the same cinematographer on Lake Placid as he does with on this movie. It was, I can't remember his name, but guess who the cinematographer was? A movie he had worked on, which we covered pretty recently too. We just did the sequel fairly recently.
The sequel?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of one.
All right. He was a grip on the original Phantasm, and then
Oh my god, Phantasm 2?
was a cinematographer for Phantasm 2, and now he's a cinematographer for this movie and for Lake Placid.
Dude, we would have been here an hour for me to
I
guess
know.
Phantasm 2. But hey, great. I loved Phantasm 2. Can't wait to do the third one.
I know. I just think that's so funny that, it's all kind of incestuous like that. But yeah, so many cool things behind the scenes. Josh Hartnett came for the interview. So did his horny friend. So did, like a lot of people came back and talked about it. So really cool.
Yeah.
But I guess, like, into the movie a little bit, dude, it starts off pretty strong. Like, we get to see Marion Crane, who's the smoking nurse from the first two. And also, did you notice the way that the second one ends is Mr. Sandman, and the way this one starts is Mr. Sandman? So it's like, boom, direct sequel.
Yeah, I mean, very smart way to kick it off. It starts off very strong, like you said. Probably the best way to start the movie is exactly where we left off, and that's Halloween, Mr. Sandman, going into bringing back Sam Loomis. So the doctor, Sam Loomis, has still been alive. I guess he's been living with that nurse Chambers. He died. They didn't really go into him. Obviously, Donald Pleasance passed away before this was even thought of, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, Michael goes in and steals a file on, like, he's like reading, like, come on.
That's where I'm like, okay, first of all, his office has like a headshot. Like, imagine I had a framed headshot of myself just in my room. That's basically what Donald Pleasance has. That's what Loomis has in his office. But anyways, so he has a folder that explains where Laurie Strode went. It's like, okay, so she became a headmistress in Northern California, and here's her address. And like that was in the file.
She went into the witness protection program.
Why would Sam Loomis have that?
I mean, probably because he was one of the contacts of her that she would reach out to. Maybe she was his therapist. Like,
Yeah.
They didn't really go into it too much. They just kind of Dr. Loomis breezed by it, and that was it.
I know. It's like Dr. Loomis has her exact location right now in this folder, even though he's been dead, but whatever. So, yeah, so Michael Myers comes to another town in in Illinois, not Haddonfield, and he's going to go kill Marion Chambers, steal the file on Laurie from Dr. Loomis's old office, and then there's, like, these two kids that are, it's Jason Gordon-Levitt, who looks a lot like Hunter, I feel like, in this movie.
Yeah, he kind of does.
Yeah, and then his friend, and that's Michael kills all of them, pretty quickly. It's a little dumb how the one, Jason Gordon-Levitt has a skate through his face, but the other guy's, like, has a knife through his back, but he's standing up straight, and it's like, that's kind of dumb.
Yeah, also the big reveal of Michael Myers is him in the background for the first time. Like, they could have done a better Michael's back moment.
Yeah, how did he even kill Marion? I don't even remember how he killed her.
Slit her throat. She was like out the window yelling at cops, like, in here, they're going to the wrong house or whatever.
Right.
And then, like, he grabs her by the neck and just like...
Yeah, that could have been like a huge kill. Like, honestly, I was going to say this later, but this movie, if they took out a couple fucks and maybe toned the gore down by like half a point, this could have been PG-13, man. A lot of the kills are off screen.
You're really surprising me. I thought it was PG-13 until you just mentioned that.
Oh, no, it's R. Yeah, it's definitely R.
No, do we see any boobies? We don't see any nudity.
No nudity, no drug use, and there's like one kill on screen. There's like the worst kill is that Adam Arkin guy. He's the guy who's like, I'm getting my nipples pierced. Like that guy. He gets killed, probably the most brutal.
Well, that was a tribute to Halloween 2 with the other nurse, remember?
Yeah, they lifts her up. Yeah. So I thought this movie was pretty light on the gore. I don't know if it was like just tamed down by the MPAA or whatever, but I was like, nobody dies on screen. Like nobody.
Yeah, but it's like back then, which is like Screams are, I don't know what Summers are, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're all are. Oh yeah.
So having a Halloween PG-13 movie might backfire a little bit.
I agree, but make it worth it. Earn the R.
You make it worth it. Yes, make it R.
Earn the R, because, like, you know, they said fuck a couple times, and we're like, whatever, you, like, whatever. But, yeah, I want, like, crank it up a little bit. This is the 90s now. Come on, like, let's go.
Yeah. Come on, get fresh with these skills, you know?
Yeah, so Michael then figures out where Laurie is. So he steals Marion's car, drives away. A couple cops come in. We get this, like, massive exposition dump where they're just like, yeah, he killed his sister. And it's like, nobody ever found the body, like what you were talking about earlier.
Really corny.
Yeah. And they show this massive, like, wall of just, like, all these news clippings of just, like, you know.
A little montage, like what we missed.
First of all, the Donald Pleasance, I was like, why didn't they just use his real audio? Like, that was stupid that they recasted that.
Probably because they'd have to deal with his estate and pay the estate money with... I don't know. Maybe that was a big deal. Who knows?
All right. Well, I think you're going to find it pretty interesting to find out the guy that actually did it. Another thing he's done, he's Nigel from the Wild Thornberrys.
Tim Curry?
Oh, is it Tim Curry?
That's Tim Curry.
Okay, it's somebody from the Wild Thornberrys then. Shit.
Tim Curry's Nigel Thornberry.
Fuck. Who was it? Was it?
It's like, why would they randomly get Tim Curry?
No, it wasn't Tim Curry. It's definitely... His name is Tom Kane. But I thought he was, Okay, he's in the Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, he's in Wild Thornberrys. Who is he?
Donnie? Or Darwin? Darwin, yeah, he's Darwin. He's the monkey.
Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. He's the monkey. Yeah. So anyway, okay, I'll edit around that. But yeah, so he's Darwin.
No, keep it in. Don't you fucking edit around that.
All right.
Don't you edit around that.
So he's Darwin from Wild Thornberrys, but he's also like been in a million voiceover things. He's a professor from the Powerpuff Girls.
Time out. Do you know what not Eliza, but the older sister? You know who VO'd that one?
No.
Jamie from Halloween 4.
Oh, look at that. Look at Daniel Harris. Yep.
Daniel Harris, yeah.
Oh, and Flea played Donnie.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right. So, anyways, another connection there with Daniel Harris and Tom Kane doing the Loomis impression in this movie. But I don't know. I thought it was a little cheap. I could hear it that it was different. I was like, it's fine, but you know, it would be better if it was Loomis. So then Michael, dude.
Drives some of the way, gets an old fast car. Remember that? And that what the fuck?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, yeah. So he goes to a rest stop and just waits for we don't know how long. And he waits for somebody to get there, and it's a little girl and her mom. And it's a pretty tense scene, and like they took this from this scene and they kind of jacked it up in the 2018 version. But like, first of all, Michael, why aren't you killing them? That's kind of lame.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, yeah, their car is from like the 40s. Like, why is that the car?
That's not making it over the Rockies.
No, that car would have died halfway to where he needed to go. There's no way that car would have made it. But also, I'm like, Michael, he killed the kid in Halloween 2018. He doesn't kill the little girl and the mom in this one. I was kind of like, eh.
Also, that thing probably gets like 8 miles to the gallon on gas. So Michael has to fill up at least 6 times, 7 times.
And if he has to drive through Idaho, that's like New Jersey where they have to pump it for you. So he's stuck. He'd have to somebody's going to kill like everybody. Yeah, anyways. So a lot of blanks they don't fill in this movie.
Yeah. Lot of glory holes at wet rest stops probably for Michael.
That's what ends up happening. Oh my God. So we get into the real movie now. We meet Josh Hartnett and Jamie Lee Curtis. Josh Hartnett's her 17-year-old son. Jamie Lee Curtis is 37 in this movie, which I'm like, she's only 40.
That doesn't feel right.
She's 40 in real life.
Jeez.
Which, I don't know, feels older than that. But anyways, yeah, so she's the headmistress of this private school in Northern California. And her son is going to the school too. And they're all of the kids are going to go to Yosemite for the weekend or whatever. And Jamie Lee Curtis is like, it's the 20th anniversary of Halloween. You're not going anywhere. And Josh Hartnett's like, you're ruining my life, Mom. And I gotta say, man, I like Josh Hartnett.
I did too. He was great in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, he was great in Oppenheimer, but he's, I liked him in Sin City. I liked him in this. He was good in The Faculty. Like, he feels like a young Harrison Ford in a weird way. I don't know why. I get Harrison Ford vibes from him, like very young Harrison Ford, like before Star Wars even.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor definitely didn't help his career.
Yeah, maybe that was like what derailed it. Anyways, I really like him in this. This is his first movie. Another little tidbit about him. Apparently he went in and auditioned for The Faculty, and they liked him, but they're like, do you want to read for this movie instead? And he was filming this and The Faculty back to back. So this movie came out first. This was his first movie, and then The Faculty immediately after that. It's like, whoa.
Damn.
Pretty good out of the gate.
Oh, yeah, he was a teenage heartthrob, too. My sister-in-law loves him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good actor, too. Like, he was in the new Black Mirror. Like, he's good. Yeah, so Josh Hartnett has a girlfriend, Michelle Williams, who's on Dawson's Creek, and his friend, his horny friend, I guess, and then his girlfriend. And I mean, here's the thing. So Michael is coming to infiltrate the school. Is it just luck that these kids are all going away for the entire weekend, so the school is essentially empty?
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, it's the trip to Yosemite, but like the point of the movie is that it's Halloween.
Right.
Jamie Lee Curtis still does not want her son to leave her side. Pretty much, she's clearly an alcoholic and takes pills and isn't over it and still thinks he's coming back. Obviously, if she knows like they never found the fucking body, yeah, he's probably still coming back. That's what she should have said more too.
Yeah.
And like really like, no, they didn't find the body. Josh Hartnett. Like
That's what she says.
yeah, like if they found the body, I feel a lot better.
No, she calls him Josh Hartnett.
Yeah.
No, but no, that's a big thing. I was going to bring that up later too, but it's just really convenient because Michael would have had to really navigate a school with like full of kids, and I think that would have added some stuff to this movie a little bit. A lot more kills, obviously.
Yeah. One other layer is the headmaster or whatever. No, she's the headmistress. There's like a different guy.
He's the counselor. He's the school counselor.
Yeah, there's a little like love thing going on, but they also like kind of hint that he is Michael Myers for a second. But he couldn't
What?
be.
When?
I got a sense like they made it seem like he was Michael at one point.
When?
I don't know, like he'd show up and scare her. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." But I honestly thought that for a little bit. And if anyone else listening thought that, I did. So,
dude, you reminded me of this. The jump scares in this, the fake jump scares in this movie.
Way too many.
It's the half the movie is just fake jump scares. It's so bad, dude. It was so glaringly obvious, like constant fake jump scares. I don't know. I hated that. But yeah, every time Adam Arkin, he would like pop up or whatever, like Michael was there that one time. You know, when he was walking down the alley and then like Jamie Lee Curtis keeps closing her eyes and thinking it's not real. And then he just like, you know, Adam Arkin scares him. And then, yeah, he scares her in front of the cafe. It's just, yeah, it's like nonstop.
Yeah, it was a little annoying. It really was. But skipping ahead, kids go to Yosemite. The two couples, Josh Hartnett, his friend, Michelle Williams, everyone, they stay back. One girl's like, I have a fever. And the other guy's like, I just flunked my class. It's like, you could have just said you were sick too because your girlfriend got you sick.
Yeah.
I just love that scene. He's like, guess who didn't turn in his paper? And she's like, I guess he has 103 fever. It's like, what? You didn't have to flunk school?
Yeah, he like actually chose that. Before the other kids leave, though, there's a whole scene with LL Cool J and him going into town. Everybody going into town, basically. And a couple things about that. So, LL Cool J, I know you're LL Cool J. Dude, you are going to lose your job over this?
We worked security together, and if we did that, we would get instantly fired.
Because I looked it up. LL Cool J's 30 in this. So imagine you're 30, okay, and you have a wife, he was married, and you've already been warned not to do something. Would you just still do it to be like, I'm cool?
No, I don't have to prove myself to a bunch of 18-year-olds.
I know. Why doesn't he just say that? And they just have to sneak out or whatever. But I was like, this is fucking bullshit. But anyway, so they sneak into town, they steal a bottle of Jameson, and I guess Josh Hartnett gets a bunch of decorations for his girlfriend for Halloween. But we get to see Jamie Lee Curtis and her, I guess, sort of boyfriend go and have lunch or whatever. And dude, there's the scene where she chugs the wine when he gets up to go to the bathroom, and I'm sitting there like, he's still gonna see the check.
I didn't even think of that.
He's gonna be like, did you order another glass of wine? And she's gonna be like, yeah, when you got up to go to the bathroom. Oh, did you like chug it? Like what was that scene? You know?
That's a great point. Maybe she picked up the check, you know. I just like that she has a full glass on the table when he goes to the bathroom, and the waiter comes by and she's like, "Can I have another glass of Chardonnay?" She didn't even sip it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like looking at her glass and she's like, "Now, please."
Also, like, she could just say, like, listen, I have a traumatic thing that happened to me on this this happened to me 20 years ago. I'm going to get drunk tonight. The guy's not going to be like, you have a drinking problem, Laurie, or whatever your name is, Tate, something. Just have 2 glasses of wine. Who gives a shit? I mean, like, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. She wasn't, like, I don't know, like, shooting up. She fucking 2 glasses of white wine at lunch. Not a big deal. Anyways.
Yeah, but she catches Josh Hartnett trying to get booze, and she's like, that scene was probably the best acting of the movie when she's yelling at Josh Hartnett, and Josh Hartnett's like, it's been 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, let it go. And she's like, can't you give me one fucking day? I thought that was like the best part of the movie.
Yeah, that was real. That felt very real. So, you know, stakes are there. We get to see a little bit of, Jamie Lee Curtis starting to come unraveled. So then all the hell breaks loose. You know, it's Halloween night. The kids are all trying to hang out, do their things, and it's basically just LL Cool J who's working a 24-hour straight shift. Then we've got Jamie Lee Curtis and her boyfriend who are just, you know, hooking up or whatever, and all the 4 kids who are about to get murdered slowly.
And she thinks that Josh Hartnett's in Yosemite.
Oh, right. She thinks that he took off, but he didn't. So,
and then she has this like makeout session with the Arkin guy, and then kind of reveals like, yeah, I'm this witness protection girl, and he's like, you're Laurie Strode.
Oh my god, yeah.
I mean, it's a little corny, but I did really like the 17-year-old thing. Like Judith Myers was 17, she was 17, and now Josh Hartnett's 17.
I know.
I thought that was a cool concept.
It is. But then you have to think for a second, how does Michael even know he has a nephew? And how does he know? The thing is, this is what I want to get to later in the episode, at like the end. They needed to fill in what happened in those 20 years. Because it's like, why didn't he come for 2 years later? Why did he wait until she got into witness protection and had a whole life and all this stuff? Like, is it simply because he wanted to wait till she had a kid so he could kill the kid? Like, there's just so much missing in those 20 years.
Yeah, I guess you could also just say, why 17?
I don't know. I do like it how, like, that's what triggered her to be like, I gotta call him, sort of thing. But for me, it's like, okay, Michael, that means he's been stalking her, so he would have known. I don't know. So it just makes me think too much, and I'm just like, God damn it. But I do like, yeah, that's what triggered her to call Josh Hartnett and then figure out, oh, you're in the school. One other thing, too, right before this, I did not come up with this on my own, but you know how they're watching Scream 2? You know, in their
yeah.
Okay. So I watched this video online, and they're like, this would, like, break the fabric of time. Because in Scream 1, they have Halloween in Scream 1. So if Scream 2 exists, let's say that they watch Scream 1 before they watch this. It's like, that, like, how can that movie exist within the movie that they're watching? Like, you know?
I mean, that's why they did it.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Why not show, well, no, that'd be too.
Well, they couldn't do Scream, so they did Scream 2, which is just like a little nod.
Oh, and another even bigger nod, the guy that plays Michael Myers in this also plays Ghostface in Scream 2.
I mean, that's also why they did
it. Maybe. But I don't know, I thought that was like really, like, it hurt my brain thinking about that, like, oh yeah.
That's a big Easter egg right there, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so Michael goes on his killing spree, kills all the kids except for Josh Hartnett and his girlfriend. So yeah, they kill the horny friend and his girlfriend, but it's like lame, you know, just like stupid kills that are just boring. Michael's mask is atrociously offensive.
Geez Louise, that was one of my notes at the end. Worst part about this movie was the mask.
It's horrible.
Who thought that was a good idea?
They talk about it a little in the documentary, but there's 3 masks they use in the movie. Because they had one that they filmed most of it with, and then the Weinsteins were like, this is horrible, so they made them do reshoots. So all of the faraway shots are a different mask, all of the close-ups are a different mask, and then there's the one scene that has a CGI cartoon, like, animated mask.
What scene is that?
Fuck, I can't remember. I'll send it to you.
That's fine, but I don't know who saw this or was editing it and was like, this mask does not look like the Halloween mask. Halloween 2 is like the scariest fucking mask in my mind.
Apparently what they did is they set up 7 of the masks. They set up all of the different masks from all the movies, and they had them pick. And, yeah. So.
Bad choice there. I'm sorry.
I know, it's horrible. They all talk about in the documentary, like, it's not a good mask. We know.
Yeah, but then finally, Laurie Strode gets her son, rescues him from the cafeteria or wherever the hell they were randomly, and comes face to face with Michael for the first time in 20 years.
Yep.
Through like a little like Free Willy glass.
That's one of the coolest shots of the movie. Yeah, that's a cool shot where they look at each other. Yeah, and then basically Adam Arkin gets murdered, probably the most vicious way in the movie. Before that, though, dude, the LL Cool J getting shot scene is kind of ridiculous. It's clearly Michael. It's like 100% Michael when he walks for one step, and then it cuts to LL Cool J.
Someone who's like a lot shorter and a lot wider. Like, no offense to LL Cool J, he's not Michael Myers' figure.
No, it's just ridiculous. And then also for them, like, he clearly is bleeding out and he's dead. He's got a pool of blood and his eyes are closed, and then, like, he's dead. And then they're like, yeah, the bullet just grazed me. It's like, this is insane that he survives.
Well, we'll get into him coming back in a second, too. So anyway, Laurie gets Josh Hartnett and Michelle Williams out of there. That's the last time we see them, right?
Yeah, so they drive. Laurie locks the gate and it's like, go down to the street and call the police or whatever. And then they're like, what are you doing? It's like, just shut the fuck up and do it.
That's like the two kids she was babysitting.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, there you
I
go.
didn't think of that. But so she sends them off. This was probably the coolest part of the movie, where the hunt becomes the hunted. She's ready to face Michael herself one-on-one. That was the best idea. Whoever came up with it nailed it, because the music was great. Laurie grabbing the axe was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was like, that made me have goosebumps. I love that scene of her like calling out for Michael instead of running from him. I was like, yes,
yeah.
That's a cool idea.
With the axe, that is cool. I love all that too. I do like Michael, like really cool. But I will say that gymnasium scene or whatever where she's under the tables, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they could have did better there. They could have did better when he's like flipping the tables. Like, what the hell is this Hulk?
And then he like floats on top of that one table because like we never hear him walk on top of it, but he's somehow on top of it. It was a little much.
I did like the scene of him on the pipe and like slowly, like one arm pull up, like slowly lowering himself. I'm like, yo, that was sick.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. And you know, Laurie stabs the shit out of him. He falls out of a window. And then she's going to stab him again, and then LL Cool J's like, "Shh, it's okay, it's over,
horrible.
It's over, shh,
horrible."
Shh, come here.
No. What does he say?
He's like, "Shh, he's dead.
He's dead. He's dead. He's dead." She could be like, "Get the fuck off!"
I know. He's like, "Shh."
He's not dead, and I'm going to cut his head off right now.
That's ridiculous. That's so stupid that LL Cool J does that. Like, let her do that. But anyways,
and there's no way Laurie Strode would be like, "Yeah, you're right. He's dead."
Yeah.
Like, no, she knows.
I know.
Like, she knows that motherfucker is not dead.
Hated it. So then we get the scene where the cops all come. LL Cool J's like, "It just grazed my head," which is like bullshit. And then Laurie steals a gun from a police officer as they're loading Michael's corpse into a van, a morgue van. She then drives the car away. Michael then comes awake, smashes through the window. Then she hits him, and for some reason, instead of just hitting him, she decides to keep driving off of a cliff and crash the car in a way that absolutely would kill her. There's no way she would not be dead after that car did 100 flips down or like a ravine.
Also, you don't just like pop out of a car that's doing that like nicely through the window. If you stick out a little bit, you're getting cut in half.
She's dead. There's no way she's not dead. But anyway, so she gets out. The axe is right there. She picks it up. She goes over to Michael, who's pinned between the tree and the car that she fell out of.
Perfectly pinned.
Yeah. Then he reaches out for her and he's like, you know, trying to hold her hand or whatever. He cuts her head off, which honestly, when he cuts the head off and you hear the like, ding, like, you know, like music or whatever, that was such a good ending. I feel like that is why people overlook a lot of the shortcomings of this movie, is because the ending is so good.
Yeah, I think they definitely wrote this movie like one and done. We can't keep the story going. We got Jamie Lee Curtis for this one. What do people always say? Just cut his head off, right? People say that all the time. You don't really see that. I mean, I can't think of any other movie where they literally decapitate the killer. It's like, that's how you kill Michael. You know, if he doesn't burn to death, cut his head off, dismember him.
Yeah.
And she does that, and it's like, oh shit. They made a sequel though.
Yeah, there's a clause written in every Halloween that he's always got to have an out. So he had an out. We'll get into that in the future, because that's not, as far as when you left the theater, you're like, he's dead. She cut his head off. And then a couple years later, there's a poster in the movie theater, coming November, blah, blah, blah. Michael, or Revenge, or Resurrection.
I mean, the movie made, what,
60.
5 times its budget, almost 4 times its budget.
A lot of money.
So.
Yeah, really quick, just want to say, remember the scene right as they're driving to leave the gate and they like, you know, slam on the brakes, or like Laurie slams on the brakes and is like, all right, get out of the car. Remember that scene? Like when she's trying to get the Josh Hartnett and Michelle Williams out of there, and she's like, get out of here.
Oh, at the end. Yes.
So when she slams on she's almost about to hit the gate. Dude, the stunt driver broke her foot. She hit the brakes so hard that she shattered her foot.
Like, shit.
Yeah. So, dude, the stunts in this movie are crazy. That guy literally smashed through the window, fell on the ground, got up, and then got hit by the car again in one take. This movie's crazy. Yeah. The stunts in this movie are insane.
I mean, this is back when like stunts were still like stunts and not like a little CGI action.
No CGI. And also when Laurie stabs Michael through the window and he falls down, she thinks he's dead or whatever. Dude, that guy had to fall backwards, do a flip onto a table. There wasn't any padding on that thing or whatever. And he had one chance, because he's like, if I don't flip quick enough, I'm gonna hit my head. I'm gonna land on my head.
You ever see that? What was it? Drake and Josh, or like what the hell, Zoe 101? guy who like fell from the ceiling and they like kept it in the show? I gotta send it to you, dude.
No.
It's the most ridiculous thing. Apparently he's like, no, it was really a stunt. Like, but like there was like an urban legend, like, no, that stunt double like fucking died in the show and they kept it in.
I mean, dude, stunt doubles are fucking crazy.
They're crazy. Yeah.
So, last thing I just want to mention too, just like because it's kind of interesting. Apparently, they had a score for this movie, and the guy's name was John Ottman, and he did it, and they played it, and they all hated it. So they're like, you need to change it. And they played some of it in the documentary, and you're like, oh yeah, this isn't gonna work. So they were re-recording it. They were like trying to fix it or whatever, and then they bumped the release date up a month. So it's supposed to come out in September, and then it was coming out in August. And they're like, you have 5 days to score the music for this movie. So they had to make the entire score. They pulled like random stock stuff. They pulled stuff from John Carpenter. They pulled stuff from the guy John Ottman's original thing, and they like Frankensteined this new score for this movie in 5 days.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Isn't that crazy? Anyways, people should watch the documentary.
Yeah, I feel like we should watch. I should have watched that before this.
It's
'cause
sick.
I'm getting blown away.
Yeah, but you know, honestly, this is one of the better Halloweens. But I think the new trilogy just kind of blows this one out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, the first one of the trilogy to me was
Yeah.
one of the best sequels to Halloween. I would actually do Halloween 2018, Halloween 2, Halloween H20. I have a special place in my heart for Halloween 3, and then the rest fall. Halloween 4, you know.
Yeah,
I kind of do that. Resurrection, bottom of the barrel, man.
yeah. No,
And the remakes of Rob Zombie. I think that's on the wheel.
yeah, we're getting there. Yeah, but you know, if they could do a sequel with Josh Hartnett. They really could have.
Or with Danielle Harris.
She dies. Her character dies.
I know, but they could have.
Oh,
They could have
okay.
figured out a way.
Okay. Anyways, so yeah, long episode, but there's a lot to talk about. This is a good movie, so I'm glad we spent some time on it. But
Yeah, two other quick things. The friend of Josh Hartnett, the guy. Do you know what else he was in?
yeah, he's Jumanji.
Yeah, he was Alan Parrish.
Yeah, I know. He was in the documentary constantly.
Really? That's so cool.
He's laughing about every fucking thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then the last thing, I just gotta say, this is a great podcast. I mean, look at the depth we just gone from Creed to Wild Thornberries. I just really enjoy talking to you, Alec.
Oh wow, thank
good.
you. Well,
Yeah,
back
that
at
was
you.
good. That felt like a good show.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of weird connections to this one. So, I'll never forget this too. I was terrified of this trailer being on TV when I was a kid.
It was scary. I remember it being scary.
I wouldn't watch anything except for Cartoon Network and Disney Channel at night because I was too afraid for this trailer to come on. You know, we were 8, dude. I was freaking out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, what do you say? Spin the wheel there.
I said we spin the wheel. Spinning. Ooh. Addams Family.
Oh, the one with Tim Curry, right? And
Tim Curry?
isn't he Gomez? Or isn't he in it?
Christopher Lloyd.
He's okay. That one. Okay.
He's not Gomez.
Who's Gomez?
Definitely not Tim Curry. If it is, I'll be shocked.
I thought Tim Curry was in this for some reason. All right, never mind. All right, sweet. So Addams Family from like 91 or something. But all right, cool.
91.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening in, and we'll see you tomorrow with Addams Family.